At the heart of the city's perfect order is the Neuronix chip, a neural implant promising emotional regulation and optimized decision-making. But when Migs's chip begins to fail, he glimpses a world scrubbed clean of inconvenient truths, and realizes the cost of that piece may be his freedom, his identity, and his mind. This is the Night of Silence, where we explore what it means to live in a world where your memories are not your own, and where rebellion begins with remembering. I'm your guest narrator, Kate Clover.
First, let's meet our sponsor, the techno-thriller Demon Protocol. It is from author J.L. Spears, the same author that wrote this series. This story asks, what would happen if an advanced AI really wanted to take over the world? It wouldn't use killer robots and nuclear weapons. It would work in shadows, keeping its actions secret. And anyone who figured it out, like its creator Daniel Bennett, would sound like a conspiracy nut to anyone he asked to help him. Demon Protocol is released on audiobook, ebook, paperback, and hardcover. A link and discount code are in the description below. Now, on to the first episode of The Night of Silence. Episode 1. Welcome to the City. Migs woke at 6 a.m. with a splitting headache that felt like someone had driven a spike through his skull. Miguel Santos, Migs to everyone who knew him, had never been one for headaches. In 32 years of life, he could count on one hand the number of times he'd felt this kind of pain. He fumbled for the aspirin in his nightstand, swallowed too dry, and tried to shake off the feeling that something was fundamentally wrong with the world. The morning routine helped. Shower, shave, dress. Each action performed with the mechanical precision of years of repetition. Tuesday morning like every other morning. Except something felt different about this Tuesday. His apartment was modest but clean, one of the thousands in the residential towers that scraped the city's perpetually gray sky. Through his window, the gleaming spires of downtown caught the first pale light of dawn. Beautiful in its way. Orderly. Perfect. Except for the coffee mug. It sat on the wrong side of the kitchen counter. Migs stared at it, trying to remember when he'd moved it. The mug had lived next to the coffee maker for 3 years, ever since Bella had bought it for him. World's most adequate boyfriend, it proclaimed in fading letters. A joke between them. So why was it by the sink? And why was Bella's sweater draped over his couch? Her work name tag was clearly visible, Isabella Cruz, MD. He picked up the navy cardigan, inhaled the faint scent of her perfume. When had she been here? Yesterday? The day before? The memory felt like smoke, dissipating the moment he tried to grasp it. That strange feeling intensified. Not quite déjà vu, but something adjacent. Like walking into a room and forgetting why you came. "Morning, Migs." Mrs. Rahman's voice made him jump. His elderly neighbor stood in the hallway, watering the building's mandatory potted plants. "Feeling better after that terrible noise last night." "Noise?" Migs forced a smile. "I must have slept through it." Mrs. Rahman's face clouded with confusion. "But you were... Never mind. These old ears, you know. Always hearing things." She turned back to her plants, muttering something in Malay. "My grandson Kai says I imagine things too, but children don't know everything, do they?" Migs wanted to ask more, but the elevator arrived with its soft chime. Inside, he caught his reflection in the polished steel doors. Same face as always, angular features, dark hair kept short and professional. The faint scar on his chin from a childhood accident he couldn't quite remember. Behind his right ear, barely visible, the small bump where his Neuronix chip nestled against his skull. Everyone had one. The chip made them better. Enhanced memory, improved decision-making, optimized emotional regulation. The foundation of the city's peace and prosperity. So why did he feel like he'd lost an entire day? The maglev train glided soundlessly toward downtown, levitating above its track through magnetic precision. Usually, the morning commute was standing room only, professionals packed shoulder to shoulder in harmonious silence. Today, Migs found a seat easily. The car was barely half full. Across from him, a woman in a rumpled business suit stared out the window. Tears had carved clean tracks through her makeup. Their eyes met for a moment, hers red-rimmed and haunted, his confused and concerned. She looked away quickly, dabbing at her cheeks with a tissue. Migs wanted to ask if she was all right, but the words wouldn't come. The city prized emotional regulation. Public displays of distress were discouraged. Not forbidden, exactly, just inappropriate. The chip usually helped manage such outbursts, smoothing the rough edges of human feeling into something more palatable, more productive. The woman got off at the next stop, practically fleeing the train. Neuronix Tower rose from downtown's heart like a glass and steel needle. 147 floors of architectural ambition. Migs had worked there for 6 years, moving steadily up through the ranks of the firmware division. Level 3 engineer. Respectable, comfortable, with room for advancement if he kept his head down and his productivity high. But today, something was different. Security had doubled. Guards stood at each entrance, checking badges with unusual scrutiny. They scanned Migs's credentials twice before waving him through. "Just a precaution," one guard said, though he didn't specify against what. The lobby's massive screens usually displayed productivity metrics and motivational messages. Today, they showed nature scenes. Forests, oceans, mountains. Soothing, deliberate, like visual anesthesia. The elevator ride to the 47th floor felt longer than usual. Migs checked his phone, scrolling through emails he didn't remember sending. One to Bella stood out, sent at 2:47 a.m. "Are you okay? That was terrifying." Her response came 3 hours later. "What was terrifying?" "Migs, you're scaring me. Did you have another nightmare?" Another nightmare? He didn't remember having the first one. The firmware division occupied the entire 47th floor, an open maze of workstations and glass-walled meeting rooms. Usually, the space hummed with focused energy. Keyboards clicking, quiet conversations about code optimization, the occasional laugh at a programmer's joke. Today, it felt like a library after someone had shouted. Too quiet. Too careful. Migs settled into his workstation, booting up his development environment. The familiar lines of code should have been comforting, but even they seemed foreign today. Comments and unsaved files that he didn't remember adding. Functions that worked but whose purpose escaped him. AJ appeared at Migs' cubicle, greeting him as he did every morning. "Hey, Migs!" AJ, or Arjun Krishnan, was one of the senior Tamil engineers in the department. Usually, AJ was the department's unofficial morale officer, quick with a joke, always organizing after-work gatherings. Today, he looked like he'd been awake for days. Did you see the game last night?" "Which game?" AJ's face went through a series of expressions. Confusion, then a sudden brightness. The cricket game. I remember watching it last night, but I guess I fell asleep. I'm just trying to find out the score." The words came out rushed, like he was trying to convince himself. He blinked rapidly, rubbing his temples. "Sorry, massive headache today. Been getting them lately." Then, "Last I remember, it was absolutely thrilling. Best game of the season." The words came out too fast, too bright. AJ blinked rapidly as if clearing sleep from his eyes. "Anyway, better get back to work. Productivity is prosperity." He walked away before Migs could respond, leaving only the echo of another Neuronix slogan. The day crawled by in a haze of routine tasks and subtle wrongness. Every conversation felt scripted. Every smile seemed practiced. During lunch, Migs sat alone in the corporate cafeteria, pushing synth chicken around his plate and trying to pinpoint when the world had shifted off its axis. His phone buzzed. Bella. "Dinner tonight? 7 p.m. at Rossini's? We have reservations." He didn't remember making reservations. But then again, he didn't remember a lot of things today. By 6:30, Migs was almost grateful to leave the office. The evening commute was lighter than usual, too, trains running half-empty through the city's arteries. He met Bella at Rossini's, a mid-tier Italian place that specialized in authentic recipes adapted for modern nutritional requirements. She looked beautiful, as always. Black hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, dark eyes that usually sparkled with intelligence and humor. Tonight, though, she seemed distracted, worried. "You look tired," she said, reaching across the table to touch his hand. "Bad day?" "Strange day," Migs admitted. "I feel like I'm forgetting something important." "The cybersecurity update? I thought you submitted that last week." "No, not work. Something else. Bella, were you at my apartment recently?" She tilted her head. "Not since Sunday, why?" "Your sweater was on my couch." "The navy cardigan? I've been looking for that. I must have left it last weekend." She smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Are you sure you're feeling all right? You've been acting odd lately." Define odd. Sending cryptic emails at 3 a.m., asking about things that didn't happen? Maybe you should take some time off. Maybe, Migs agreed, though the thought of unstructured time made him unexpectedly anxious. They ate in comfortable silence, the restaurant's ambient music washing over them. Bella talked about her work at the hospital, a successful surgery on a child with a rare genetic condition, a new technique for minimizing scarring. Bella's passion for medicine always shone through when she spoke about her patients. "The parents were so grateful," she said, cutting into her lab-grown lamb. "They said the surgery gave their daughter a chance at a normal life. Can you imagine living without—" Her voice trailed off, eyes glazing over for a moment. "Without what?" Migs prompted. Bella blinked, focusing on him with visible effort. Without proper medical care. Thank goodness for modern medicine, and the chip's diagnostic assistance, of course. We're all so fortunate." There it was again, that scripted quality, like she was reading from a teleprompter only she could see. After dinner, they walked through downtown's shopping district. The streets were well lit and clean, automated sweepers humming along the gutters. Digital billboards advertised the latest consumer goods, each ad tailored to the specific viewers in range. Migs noticed they were all selling variations of the same thing tonight: comfort. Soft beds, warm clothes, soothing music. Products to ease anxiety that no one was supposed to be feeling. They paused in front of a large public screen showing the evening news. A perfectly groomed anchor smiled at the camera, her teeth impossibly white. "Good evening, citizens! Another productive day in the city, with efficiency metrics up 0.3% over last quarter. In other news, the weather tomorrow will be partly cloudy with a chance of—" The screen flickered. For a half a second, maybe less, the anchor's smile was replaced by something else entirely. Burning cars. Crowds of people filling the streets, their faces contorted with rage. Enforcement officers in riot gear, shields raised against thrown bottles and rocks. Smoke and chaos, and then it was gone. The anchor's smile never wavered. "Chance of light rain in the afternoon. Remember to carry an umbrella and stay hydrated." Migs grabbed Bella's arm. "Did you see that?" She'd gone pale, her hand pressed to her mouth. Yes. What was that?" "I don't know." They stood, frozen, staring at the screen as it continued its normal broadcast. Weather, traffic, a human interest story about a dog that could solve basic math problems. "Should we report it?" Bella asked. "Report what? A half-second glitch?" "It wasn't just a glitch." Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Those people looked so angry. Why were they angry?" They discussed it intensely all the way back to Migs's apartment, both trying to cement the details in their minds. Once there, they spent the next 2 hours in Migs's living room, talking in circles about the broadcast. Every time they thought they'd grasped something significant, it slipped away. But the feeling remained, the certainty that they'd witnessed something important, something hidden. "Maybe we're overthinking it," Bella said eventually, though she didn't sound convinced. "Technical glitches happen." "Since when? The news runs on triple redundant systems," I know because Neuronix built them. Then what are you saying? That someone hacked the broadcast to show us... what? A movie scene? I'm saying that looked real. Those people, that anger, it looked real. Bella pulled her knees to her chest, a gesture that made her look younger than her 31 years. I don't like this feeling. Like the world isn't what I thought it was. I know. Migs put his arm around her, felt her trembling slightly. But we saw it together. That means something. Does it? Who else saw it? Who else will remember? They had no answer for that. By the time Bella left shortly after 11 p.m., citing an early surgery, they talked themselves in circles without reaching any conclusions. Migs walked her to the door, kissed her goodnight, and promised to call if he saw anything else unusual, while Bella promised the same. Alone in his apartment, he tried to reconstruct the day. The misplaced mug, the crying woman on the train, AJ's strange freeze, the half-empty commutes, the broadcast glitch. Individual anomalies that might mean nothing, but together painted a picture of a world slightly out of joint. He prepared for bed mechanically. Brushed teeth, set alarm, check locks. In the bathroom mirror, he noticed something that made his blood run cold. Behind his right ear, where the chip sat beneath the skin, was a small mark, like a burn, fresh enough to still be red, old enough to have started healing. When did that happen? Migs touched the spot gingerly. The skin was tender, warmer than the surrounding area. The chip itself felt different too. Usually he couldn't feel it at all, perfectly integrated with his biology. Now it seemed foreign, like a splinter working its way to the surface. He grabbed his phone to call Bella, then hesitated. What would he say? That his chip felt weird? She'd worry. She'd insist he see a doctor. And maybe that was the right choice, but something deep in his gut rebelled against the idea. Instead, he opened his photo gallery, scrolling through recent images. Pictures of him and Bella at dinner last week, screenshots of code he was working on, normal life documented in digital snapshots. Then he reached the photos from Monday night. His finger froze on the screen. The images showed chaos. Streets filled with people, overturned cars burning, signs and banners he couldn't quite read, and in one horrifying selfie was his own face, eyes wide with terror, flames reflected in his pupils. But he had no memory of taking these photos, no memory of being in a riot. Monday night, according to his memory, had been completely normal. Work, home, sleep, nothing worth photographing. So who had used his phone to document a revolution he couldn't remember attending? Migs sat on the edge of his bed, staring at evidence of his own lost time. The headache from this morning returned with vengeance, pulsing in rhythm with his accelerated heartbeat. Behind his ear, the chip grew warmer still. Outside his window, the city's lights twinkled like stars brought to Earth. Orderly, perfect, peaceful. Somewhere in that electric constellation, 6 million people were going about their lives, secure in the knowledge that tomorrow would be like today, which was like yesterday. The chip ensured it. The chip optimized it. The chip made them better. Migs touched the burn mark again, wondering if better was worth the price of forgetting what they'd paid for it. He fell asleep with his phone in his hand, the gallery still open to images of a revolution he'd lived but couldn't remember. In his dreams, the city burned while he stood in the flames, trying desperately to hold on to memories that slipped through his fingers like water. When he woke, it would be Wednesday, and he would begin to understand that some Wednesdays were built on the ashes of forgotten Tuesdays. But for now, he slept. And behind his ear, the damaged chip sparked and sputtered, fighting a losing battle against the truth of what had been erased. What did you think of this episode? Drop a comment down below. I'm your guest narrator, Kate Clover, and you're watching Episode 1 of The Night of Silence on Code and Consciousness. In our next episode, a glitch on the news, a riot no one remembers, As Migs searches for truth in a world that insists he's wrong, one child's drawing might hold the key to what everyone else forgot. Memory or madness? What would you believe? Don't forget to like this video and hit subscribe to get alerts when the next video is available.